Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another Stacker News Live. We're here today with my best friend Keyan and special guest Kevin Rooke. Can you believe it?
Thanks for having me. This is really exciting to be here.
Yeah.
Down from Toronto, getting the full Austin Bitcoin experience. How have you enjoyed Austin so far?
It's great so far. Last night, we did the Austin Bitcoin Club. We did a panel there, and there was about 100 people, and it was honestly one of the biggest Bitcoin meetups I've ever been to. I've never been to a Bitcoin conference, actually.
And that was a small one. That's just a surprising thing.
Yeah, it was incredible. And it's just like every Thursday night, you got something going on. So some inspiration for Toronto. I think I have to start a Bitcoin meetup in Toronto now.
Yeah, it was great to have you. I mean, I think one of the coolest things was like we actually had somebody that knew how to ask the right questions.
Yeah,
like
it was very professional.
It was very it got really professionaled up. Yeah.
I wonder did many people recognize you?
Yeah.
I actually had the craziest thing happen. I left afterwards. We went to a bar to use Lightning at, I can't remember what it was called, but one of the bars downtown. On my way back, I hopped on one of those electric scooters, and I'm just driving down some like deserted road, and some guy from out of nowhere shouts, "Hey, I know you!" And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh, he must have for sure seen the panel, the meetup." And he's like, "What panel? What meetup?" He's like, "No, I know you. I've seen your YouTube stuff." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah,
Austin's like on their stuff with Bitcoin.
Yeah,
I've never had that happen before.
It's kind of cool, right? Like, do you ever get stopped, Keyan, or no?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally people will yell at me. They'll see my hat and they'll be like Stacker News, but from cars. But that's nothing like they recognize my face.
Well, that's incredible. Still, that Stacker News. Like, I don't think anyone in Toronto would recognize that. There's, Austin's on a whole new level. I'm impressed.
Yeah, it's a long time coming. But thanks for coming on Stacker News Live. We're gonna jump into the top 5 stories of the week. Keyan, take it off.
Yeah. Quick meta. We release polls, so you can now ask Stacker News users questions. It's pretty straightforward. People have been using it a lot. It's just kind of fun. Most people are using it right now, I think, because it's like a bit of a new toy. But got a lot of feedback on it already that we'll be integrating.
So it's a 1 sat to create, 1 sat to vote. Is that how that works?
Yeah. Eventually you'll be able to set how much you want the votes to cost. Maybe you want them to cost 100 sats rather than 1 sat. You want it to be a little more Sybil resistant. Make sure the votes are actually authentic. But yeah, Have
we seen any cool polls?
I've seen a couple.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what you think are going to be the most interesting polls over time. Like, what are we going to, we can do this for predicting CPI inflation. We can have all sorts of predictions about, big events. Are there any specific use cases do you think polls will be helpful for?
Nothing super specific. I know what I like is that it's like generic enough it can be used for nearly anything. And that's kind of what we've seen it get used for. Like a lot of the more popular polls are just asking people about the Bitcoin and like how, like in this particular case, it's like, do you run a node? And it seems like 60% of the people who entered in the poll said they do run a full node with Lightning, which is pretty awesome. I think if you asked a similar question on Twitter, you wouldn't know who was answering, and you would suspect that there were a fair number of like no coiners, and so it'd be skew your poll pretty heavily. But at least on Stacker News, there are 22.7 people who are interested enough in Bitcoin to be on Stacker News and have an account and logged in and willing to and have Bitcoin on the Lightning Network, but they don't run a node at all. And that's kind of an interesting data point. So I think the most interesting thing to me is being able to poll people who are like reliably Bitcoiners.
Yeah. It's so good. I mean, it's another cool feature that Stacker has, right? Stacker News has.
Yeah. People want more options and stuff. We'll be doing a little more with that. But that's the top meta. top non-meta story is Pierre Rochard's AMA, which was a great
This
AMA.
was actually really good.
Yeah, he's very articulate.
To the point.
Yeah, but he knows what he's talking about. I think is the kind of important thing.
These AMAs are getting a lot of traction too. This one had 83 comments on it?
Yeah.
And I think there was one with Alan yesterday that had over 100 comments. And I think that's the first one I've seen with over 100 comments. So these are getting a lot of traction.
Yeah.
You're just churning them out at this point, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
Well,
like there's one every to me it feels like every 6 hours. Or like maybe every 12 hours. It feels like almost every 12 hours, right?
We had three this week, and we have 3 for the next week. Yeah. Kevin's the one reaching out and doing most of the AMAs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome job.
Yeah.
It seems like there's no downside as long as we can bring on like great people to do these AMAs. The more the merrier, because we're starting to see some of these people come back now and respond. I mean, here's the first comment is from Jimmy Song, who did an AMA before.
Yeah.
Right. And so now we have people who do AMAs now are familiar with the site. Then they can use the site and actually ask interesting questions to the other guests.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's helping onboard people.
Yeah, definitely. I think it definitely helps, and it makes sure there's always like a discussion or something worthy of participating in while people are on the site. It wouldn't have occurred to me that there is no upper limit to how many AMAs. That's something that you presented, and I think it's definitely true. Why not have more of them? People seem to really like them.
It's a reason to come back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
There will always be another AMA. Is there any
really
AMA
cool.
guests that have been like particularly hard to get on? That
There's been some that just haven't responded.
Okay.
I think,
Just busy maybe.
there's obviously like the dream list of all the like top people in Lightning. Of course, only a fraction of them we've had on so far.
right?
But I start thinking of Ross Stevens. I think of like Jack Mahlers, Elizabeth Stark. Those guys, like, we haven't had any of them on yet.
Jack,
but
Elizabeth,
if
come
anyone's
on.
watching,
Come on,
Yeah.
come on. You got to do an MA.
I mean, Elizabeth promised me she would come on.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Back when Sacra News was raising.
you
So
should just do it. Like, there's so many questions like a lot of people would just want to ask, right?
yeah. But she's also
I just want to know what
super
kind of
busy.
music she listens to.
I would guess like oh God, what is it called? Like a mellow beats type of thing,
That
like
makes
where it's
sense.
very like very, very instrumental.
Yeah.
That's my guess. Anyway, really good AMA. Top question was Jimmy Song asking what convinced Pierre to turn from atheism, and Pierre noted having children prompted him to reflect on this more than anything. And there was a fairly good discussion around that, some back and forth with other people who are atheists. Kind of interesting. There's quite a bit of overlap with Christianity and Bitcoin, and cool to see that kind of get discussed here. Ciato, who runs a profitable Lightning node, came in and asked Pierre about running a Lightning node at Kraken and like what are some of the decisions they're making, and they had a fairly good discussion about that. And while Pierre isn't at Kraken anymore, he is at Riot now, but he was instrumental in getting the Lightning node up and running. I don't know if you guys asked any questions of Pierre.
I think Kevin did.
I think I asked one. I can't actually remember at this point what it was.
It's probably in here somewhere. It gets harder and
I
harder.
asked him about what research he's going to be doing
Right.
at Riot. He gave a full list of all the topics he's interested in.
Yeah. So it seems like a lot of the work that we know him for already, he'll be continuing to do at Riot. Proof of work versus proof of stake, mempool competition.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
He's such a big presence here in Austin. I know he's kind of behind the scenes now, but like I've seen him on multiple occasions, like at the Commons and stuff. And he's come by the old Plub Lab when we were there. he's just an all around great human being. I really like Pierre a lot.
I fed his daughter a piece of bacon on the way to the Bitcoin Miami conference. He was waiting to get on the plane, and I had some bacon, and his daughter ate some of it. Yeah, really, really cool to see him on Stacker News. I hope to see him on again. You also asked Kevin, what is the most important lesson you've learned from Bitcoin? Macro trends take decades, not months or years. So wisdom from a guy who's earned it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next top story is Alan Farrington's AMA.
Who's Alan Farrington? This is one I didn't know at all.
So he's an investor. He wrote Bitcoin is Venice. I think he had some kind of role. He's a board observer at Blockstream, so he had some kind of role at Blockstream. I don't know much of his backstory. Do you, Kevin?
I don't know a whole lot of the backstory, but I had started to read Bitcoin is Venice because Alex Gladstein recommended it in his AMA.
Right.
And so I saw that and I was like, okay, I'm going to read this. And I found it super interesting. I'm actually only partway through right now, but it was a really interesting book. And I haven't actually read many of the Bitcoin books. I haven't been drawn to many of them other than the Bitcoin Standard that kind of like set me down the rabbit hole. This is one of the few that I look at and think, this is a great book. This is like, I think every Bitcoiner should read it.
Really?
So
it struck you that? Yeah, he seems. What's
that book again? What's the book again?
It's called Bitcoin is Venice.
Okay.
I've read some of his other work that he posts, he's like very insightful. Comes at things from a very different angle than you'd expect someone to come at them from. But I mostly know him from Twitter, but I know he writes a lot of stuff. But yeah, one of our most popular AMAs. So clearly, other people are curious about his thoughts on things. Top question was, where does the yield come from? And I think it was his meme where you are the exit liquidity.
What does that mean again? What does that mean?
Like, how are people earning in these DeFi systems? They're like, it's mostly someone is the exit liquidity for them because they're not in them long term. They're only in them short term, long enough for them to get popular enough for them to rug pull or dump on people. Yeah, a lot of really good questions in here. Did you ask one of him? Oh, here it is. Kevin's question is: if you had to pick one company to outperform Bitcoin, what would you pick? And it gave a really good answer here.
Yeah, I thought that was really thoughtful. I mean, I was hoping to get an actual answer, but he said he's going to cop out, and he had some good reasons for why.
What were the reasons, Kevin?
The first, he says everything I have familiarity with is at an incredibly speculative stage. So you just kind of never know if it's going to succeed. But he thinks that if it does succeed, some of these bets are going to outperform Bitcoin by many orders of magnitude. And then I think he had another point. He said if this new company he's talking about.
Yeah. The other point I think that struck me in particular was that he said if you have a Bitcoin company, even if your Bitcoin denominated return is 0, but you have a Bitcoin company that's earning Bitcoin, then it's technically outperforming Bitcoin.
Yes.
And I thought that was I hadn't thought of it that way before, but
you'd have to make sure though that your salaries are also being paid, your expenses are being paid in Bitcoin, because if you have the price come down for the last like 8 months, like we've had, and if you've been paying out salaries in dollar terms, you're going to be using a larger and larger portion of your Bitcoin every single day for the next 8 months as we head down.
Right.
And that's a whole article right there just on that topic alone. Because it's not the same, right? It's not the same as holding Bitcoin on your balance sheet, right? It's because it's Bitcoin that you're earning as a company.
Yeah, there's levels to it, right? It's like the first level is like you hold Bitcoin on your balance sheet. The next level is you also earn Bitcoin. And the third level is you also have expenses in Bitcoin. And I think once you get all three, you're earning and you're spending in Bitcoin and you hold Bitcoin. If you have all those three, you're effectively on a Bitcoin standard.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Car, about this being a whole article, he's saying his professional mission for the next decade is to make this clearer, is to like articulate this whole thing around people thinking in terms of Bitcoin rather than dollars. So
I want to hear what you guys think for that question, though. You have to pick one company to outperform Bitcoin for the next decade, and it can't be your own company,
right? I wouldn't be so confident to say that, but it's tricky.
If I'm gonna, this is probably me like talking out of my butt, but I would say it's gonna be a Bitcoin hardware company. That would be, or there's some kind of like POS, or like it's gonna be a company that has hardware. I feel like I think people, and I say this all the time. You heard this for like almost a year. I feel like people are really underestimating Bitcoin hardware right now, and like how that's going to take off, because once it really hits the mainstream, like there's going to be nothing like a Drake or one of these guys to like really want to floss some like Bitcoin hardware and say they're holding a hot wallet with like 2 or 3 Bitcoin in it. Like, I don't think people understand.
Well, you don't mean a hot wallet, you mean a cold wallet.
No, it'll be a hot wallet. It'll be something that's just looks really cool.
Oh, you mean like a Lightning wallet?
Yeah, of some sort. And they're just holding like crap ton of Bitcoin on there, and it's just so they can have it around their neck. Like, it's not a diss on Drake or anything, but it's just like people just want to floss like that. And I think like underestimating like Bitcoin hardware, I think is like kind of one of the things right now, but I don't know.
Okay, that's a good point. I think you asked this question to Max too, and he said block. That was his answer.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good one. I mean, it's easy to pick them though too, because they're already successful.
I think actually the question I asked to Max was like, what's going to be the company that brings 1 billion people to Bitcoin or something?
Okay.
I don't think he would have picked Block for outperforming Bitcoin, because it's already a $50 billion company or something like that.
Yeah, you don't 100x the 50 billion company, $50 billion. Yeah. I don't know. I wish I had a good answer to it.
Isn't Block doing hardware though?
Yes.
So there you go. Like a checkbox, right? Like, and they're also doing software. Like, yeah, that's why it's. I know. Yeah, I think we solved it. Block.
Yeah, I don't know. Pick one company though. I almost like the category. There maybe categories would be easier.
What's your category?
I think there are like nascent uses for Bitcoin. Bitcoin will solve problems like this, like Sybil resistance problem and things in applications that I think has been like dying to be solved. And I think that has a lot of potential. And then of course the kind of earning in small quantities, I think is also really interesting. But picking like a company who's going to be ahead of that is tricky. There's definitely like a huge opportunity there, and there's not many people working on it yet. So that category is filled by maybe 10 companies now at most.
Who do you think, Kevin?
I think it would be, if I had to pick category, it would be this like consumer social lightning category. And so this is a category that like Stack News is operating in. Fountain's also operating in it. Mash is also operating in it. There's going to be more operating in it. I heard an interesting idea from John Cantrell about doing a live like trivia app. Like, remember HQ Trivia? It was about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I've heard John Cantrell talk about this.
Yeah, so doing like a HQ Trivia on Lightning where you can pay out everyone as they answer questions. I think the original HQ Trivia was something like you have to answer 12 questions. They make it so that basically everyone who participates live, there's millions of people live that show up for it, and like at the end there's like 4 people that get all 12 right. It just, everyone gets whittled down, so only the 4 people get paid. But now you can pay proportionally everyone.
Right.
If you get to question 8, you get more than the guy who gets to question 4. Right.
He's been thinking about this for a long time. I don't think he's settled on a design for it. I forget the reasons why, like some of the blocks to it. I think it's mostly legal as part of one of his bigger concerns, but it's a really interesting idea and would definitely help with adoption and education. Like,
yeah. I think it's going to be something like that just takes off overnight. Like we have a lot of the infrastructure built to support this stuff now, and I think that we're ready for a big consumer app to take people by storm.
Can't wait.
Oh yeah,
it's looking good. It's looking good this this time of year right now. There's so many people building right now. It's like a cliche thing to say, but it's like a lot of cool stuff. All the ideas are coming out right now. It's cool.
So that's there's a lot of great stuff in here, like kind of quirky questions that people are asking Alan. But check it out. The next top story is the Riot versus McCormick judgment.
Oh Lord.
What?
Kevin, take it away.
I don't know anything about this one.
Really? Okay.
I heard there was something about Craig Wright and Peter McCormick, but I honestly have no idea where it started or what I didn't even read the final verdict here, so someone's going to have to fill me in.
Okay, so what happened was Peter basically had a Twitter thread where he was calling Riot a fraud, and the other guy, I forget his name, but he's like the henchman for Riot came along and was like, "Oh, Craig is the real Satoshi," and then
that's that Calvin guy, right?
Calvin Ayer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I had a tweet about McCormick that went kind of viral, and Calvin responded to me at one point. But that's I don't know how he dedicates his life to. I guess if he thinks he's Satoshi, it makes sense. Anyway, he responded in that thread to McCormick, and McCormick basically like challenged him to sue him. And he's like, "Where's my lawsuit? Give me my lawsuit." I kept calling Craig Wright a fraud over and over and over again. But basically Craig Wright and Calvin Ayer ended up suing him for libel. And the verdict was that McCormick did harm Craig Wright's reputation. Originally McCormick was going to prove that Craig Wright isn't Satoshi, but he decided not to do that because it'd be so expensive legally to do that. And you can't really technically prove something isn't true. It's like quite hard. It would, yeah. And you can say you're anyone so long as that there isn't someone with a greater claim to saying you're that person. And that's kind of the weird thing about this Craig Wright situation is because Satoshi isn't there. There's no one to say I'm actually Satoshi. So anyone can claim they're Satoshi as effectively as Craig Wright has. Anyway, they ended up deciding that it was on some level libel, but because he advanced a deliberately false case and put forward deliberately false evidence. Craig Wright is widely known for lying all the time and just doing all kinds of stuff like this. It said he will only recover nominal damages and only awarded him £1 British pound.
Wow.
Yeah. So it seems like a win for McCormick overall. And I think the judge kind of got the point that Craig Wright is a fraud of some sort, at least, even if they can't legally prove he's not Satoshi. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts, Car?
I have so many thoughts. It's just like, what do I want to say publicly about it? I think the person I'm thinking about right now is more like Hodlnaut, right?
Okay.
Yeah, like he doesn't have any representation as far as I know. But
did he get sued too?
Yeah. So I think that's somebody like when I think of CSW, I think of that. I'm like, man, feel bad for Hodlnaut.
Yeah, I don't know what that suit ended up looking like. I know he went after Cobra Bitcoin. And
he's another guy too.
Yeah, and that was very expensive.
Or another NIM.
McCormick's got big bags though, so it was kind of maybe this will stop Riot. I mean, we kind of have to be thankful that McCormick actually went after it.
Yep. I don't know. It's just such a touchy thing, and it's just yeah. I'm more thinking about Hodlnaut. Like, what's it look like for him? So hopefully everything works out with that. We'll see. I don't think it's the last we've ever heard of Riot, though. Unfortunately.
No, I think he'll be doing this forever. Yeah, but kind of fun if you like that kind of thing, Judge Judy type stuff.
Yeah, I saw this post.
Yeah,
This post was surprising. Is it getting overrun by altcoiners?
I mean, in my opinion, it isn't. I think Jimmy is just a little bit. He's like kind of has a huge history in the space and can see the signs maybe, and is like quite sensitive to even like the smallest increment towards more altcoiners being on Stacker News. So my read is he's just like he's expressing a potential future concern because the Bitcoin talk was overrun by altcoiners. Reddit similarly, kind of had people who were maybe, secondarily interested in Bitcoin, but primarily interested in other coins join the Bitcoin subreddit. Bitcoin Twitter obviously is constantly trolled by people outside of the community. So it seemed like a reasonable thing. And I know he's been having beef with Seth for privacy over Monero stuff. They went back and forth on Twitter, and then Jimmy blocked him. So
was Seth for privacy on here posting before? Or?
Yeah, Seth for privacy has been on here quite a bit. He's been exploring Lightning and is actually quite interested in Lightning and is, by his own definition, I think, like a Bitcoiner. He just also is into Monero.
So we got a comment that says, I've seen posts on Stacker News about Monero, Cardano, and a few others.
Yeah, people will post whatever in recent, but nothing.
I haven't seen any of those, though.
Yeah, I haven't really either. There have been Seth for privacy has posted some good articles on Lightning and comparing Lightning to Monero in some cases and indicating that Lightning has inferior privacy or Bitcoin has inferior privacy to Monero.
Is it set up to algorithmically, I don't know if that's the correct term, but for me to see something different than a normal person would?
No, it's been very minimal. It's just this one post by Seth, I think, was one of the more popular ones. But so the main thing that triggered Jimmy here was that another user asked why people were negative towards Monero on Stacker News. I think it's in top.
They asked why?
Yeah, for those who just like Monero, why?
It's a honeypot, bro.
That got 142 comments. Wow.
Yeah, one of the most popular discussions on the site. People really like flame wars.
No, I feel like every time there's a meetup, there's always a Monero show there, and I feel like that's the Fed or that's No, I'm not even joking. That's why I just don't even want to talk about Monero publicly because I'm just I'm not falling for that. I'm steering clear.
Yeah,
to me it just screams 3-letter agency. But that's me,
Yeah, I don't. It doesn't really scream that for me, but.
Because what's the point of Monero though? What's the point of it?
More in
because it uses ring T signatures or something like that.
It's just better base layer privacy, is my understanding. But it has all of these it's not great in that it has centralization and does frequent hard forks and stuff. But
I also think another thing too, when it comes to these altcoins and all of them, they're going to go where there's people with Bitcoin. They're always going to you've seen that meme, right? Where they're in the restroom urinal. And then the guy,
I haven't seen
Bitcoiner's in the urinal. He's way over there, and then there's the
altcoiner right in his
he's
face.
Right next to him. It's I feel like it's that. I don't know how you prevent that.
No, well, that's what this discussion with Jimmy was about.
Kevin, what do you think? Kevin?
Yeah, I heard Super asking you about this earlier.
It's interesting. I mean, I saw a lot of comments suggesting that we should be banning certain words or certain content or being able to build block lists and things like that. I remember jumping in on one of these comments. I'm not sure if it was the main thread with Jimmy, but I jumped in somewhere and said, why are we so interested in building up block lists for people or for terms? Why not muting people? I think that might be a pretty civil way to disassociate with things you don't want to talk about and allow the conversation to persist and everyone else to decide whether or not they want to participate. I think the cool thing though about Stacker News is that you are, as soon as you're participating, you are on Lightning. You're using Lightning to do it.
Yeah.
And so I think that is going to act as a natural deterrent for people. You know, I don't know if there was a Lightning equivalent on some other chain, they're not going to come over to Stacker News to talk about it because they're using Bitcoin's Lightning Network. They're not using, you know, some other scaling solution. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, like the top comment in here is make login with Lightning the only login method, and Seth for privacy is like I log in with Lightning, and so he's a Bitcoiner who is also a Monero proponent. It's like kind of a weird gray area.
I think logging with Lightning is a great idea. I think also, you know, it might be interesting to explore the idea of removing those. You know how you get a few free posts and a few free comments when you show up? It might be worthwhile to consider that. I know it adds friction to people who don't have a Lightning wallet set up, but maybe that's a good thing. I just think that the one thing differentiating Stacker News from the past examples that Jimmy was using, Bitcoin Talk and Reddit, is that neither of those were built on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It was just a discussion board built on the internet, and it just happened to talk about Bitcoin. But this one's actually built on Bitcoin. It uses Bitcoin. You earn Bitcoin. I think the conversation is probably going to stay pretty close to Bitcoin, at least for the short term.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would agree. I don't really see it slipping very fast into another domain. And I don't see someone who's like really into Ethereum coming on Stacker News and wanting to talk about Ethereum on Stacker News while using Bitcoin. It's kind of like part of the reason why I think some of the discourse stays fairly positive on Stacker News versus other platforms. It's like because you're anticipating a reward, and so it's weird because you're unlikely to get rewarded for being very trolly on Stacker News versus Reddit. You can kind of just upvote something. It doesn't cost you anything to support a troll on Reddit, but it costs you something to support a troll on Stacker News, and so. I think there's definitely a different game. I don't know if it's like enough, and I think it's worth like having these discussions. And it seems somewhat productive, despite people disagreeing a lot.
It was nice we got Udi in there.
Yeah,
it was his first
is that really him?
post. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
He posted on Twitter that he posted there.
Well, I guess Jimmy has a point. The shitcoiners are coming.
Yeah, Udi is definitely the king of crossovers.
Don't say his name 3 times; he shows up.
Oh no. Yeah. Anyway, if you like flame wars, if you like back and forth, and if you like, there is some fairly constructive criticisms of Monero in both these threads. If you're wondering why Jimmy Song doesn't support Monero, why Seth and Udi think it's great or whatever, check it out.
Yeah, definitely conversation worth having.
The last top story is from Lines Gone. They are an American expat living in Taipei.
Boss.
And they posted this on the day that Nancy Pelosi was landing in Taiwan, and discussion ensued. So people are asking them about like what it's like in Taiwan right now. It was really interesting.
What's going on in Taiwan? I don't know anything outside Austin.
China is like increasingly hostile towards them. So they're thinking about instituting like a trade blockade and preventing trade from entering and exiting Taiwan. It's become a bit of like a political token that both the United States and China are fighting over. And yeah, it's looking like it might be another like Hong Kong in terms of China just kind of coming in and taking over there. I don't know if you've seen those interviews where they'll ask people who have some association with China to talk about Taiwan, and they'll like shut down the conversation. But it like China is kind of upset that Taiwan exists as a democratic state.
Kevin, what do you think about all this stuff?
I honestly don't know a whole lot about this story. I feel like this is a sign of like we're starting to get to the point where Stacker News, we now have a bunch of users interested in topics that are not necessarily Bitcoin topics, but like maybe a little bit related. This is like a politics topic.
Yeah,
I think that's cool to see, but I can't really specifically comment on this story just because I don't really.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it either.
But also another thing, this actually, I guess, isn't even a story. It's this guy saying like, what was his comment? He just said, "I'm living in Taipei and I'm here watching this unfold," and he almost turned it into an AMA.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
And so that's something that Stacker News users, I hope, start to play around with a bit more. Like, we do AMAs on the site with prominent Bitcoiners, but there's no rule that says you can't start your own AMA.
Yeah, that is
I think
kind of
people
cool.
will do it.
There was a user, a Stacker News user who was in the daily discussion thread who makes his living on doing like pharmaceutical trials, and he had a little impromptu AMA, and that was pretty fun.
Dude, I love the discussion thread so much. That's like my favorite thing to look at every morning.
I hope a company does this. Like a Bitcoin company should, when they're getting ready to announce a product, I'd love to see them like set up 2 posts on Stacker News, or maybe just one. It could be like, here's the product we're announcing, put it in discussion post form, link out to the actual blog post or the technical docs or whatever, and at the end say, AMA, we want to learn more about what you think of this product. I think if you're building a product for Bitcoiners, if you want feedback from them, you're going to get it on Stacker News. This is the place for Bitcoiners to hang
that's
out.
a good idea. Yeah. Maybe I'll start suggesting that when founders reach out to me and they're like, hey, we're going to release this thing. What should I do? That's maybe because that'll get a ton of engagement and
Get everybody to look at it, get everybody to write about it.
versus them just dropping a link and vanishing.
Yeah, they'll get press. They'll get, you're going to just get clicks from a post that goes to the top of the page. You're going to get great feedback from Bitcoiners. You're going to get enthusiasm from people who are excited that this Bitcoin company is actually using a Lightning product. I think that's something I'm looking forward to in the near future.
It looks like level 99 Slacker said, "That's me, y'all." I guess that's his post.
Yeah, that was he's not Lion's Gone. He's level 99 Slacker on Stacker News. He was the one who does pharmaceutical trials.
Okay, cool.
Professionally.
It's good to see Stackers in the comments.
Yeah, pretty cool. The main thing I was struck by this, and I'm like frequently reminded how Stacker News' user base is global. Like I tend to forget that it's global, but only less than half of them are from the United States. So it's pretty incredible. I mean, we have 1% of our users come from Brazil, Spain, 3% from the Netherlands, 5% from the UK. This is probably most of Kevin's visits here from Canada. It's crazy.
I think I was looking at the top cities on Stacker News of all time. It might be surprising.
Oh, really? What is it?
Well, maybe I'll get you to guess before we say it.
Austin?
So, you can see first one there's New York, but the second one's really surprising to me.
Frankfurt,
yeah. And then we have Dallas and then Amsterdam. Wow. Dallas, I guess, is bigger than Austin, right? Is that the biggest city in Texas?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
Wow, Austin's way at the bottom of the list, Keyan.
Well, I mean, this is still, you got 3,000 plus visitors. Bigger than Toronto. You're slightly ahead of Toronto, so maybe I have to.
Who's browsing from New York?
You need to visit the site.
Who are all these New York Bitcoiners?
I think that's just like New York's such a big place, and probably Plausible's taking the data from like the greater New York area.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's probably it. But yeah, I'm always surprised, and
Madrid and Paris and just like all sorts of places you'd never think would be. Zurich,
Montreal, Vienna, Prague,
Helsinki,
Sao Paulo.
Oh, Sao Paulo, yeah, that makes sense.
Lisbon. I want to see more.
Buenos Aires. I don't see Mexico anywhere, Mexico City or anything like that, right? Or no?
We do it might be easier to spot in the countries.
You were talking about languages, maybe in a discussion thread. Is that going to happen at some point or no? What do you think?
We have a few different approaches to this. I know Kevin has probably a better formed opinion on this. You went back and forth a little bit on that.
I had a discussion with someone. We were talking about, I think it was a Spanish post that was on Stacker News, and I didn't read Spanish, or I still don't read Spanish. And I think there was a discussion about like, is this like okay, or should we be posting stuff in different languages, or should we try and keep it to English? And we went back and forth, and I think someone suggested setting up a Spanish sub, and then someone said, well, maybe it was me, said, well, how about we make it so that you got to pay for the sub, so that we know we're not creating like ghost towns of every language if there's no actual demand.
Right.
And they suggested they'd be interested in paying. But I think someone else commented and said, what about like filters for different languages? And I thought that was an excellent idea.
Oh, wow.
Like if I speak 3 languages, I can just set those languages in Stacker News. And if Stacker News detects that, this is a piece of content in Russian and I don't speak Russian.
That makes more sense, actually.
Yeah. And then, you don't have to bootstrap a brand new sub just for a discussion in a different language, when realistically, like, the discussion in a different language is going to be Bitcoin discussion as well. It's just going to be copying and pasting a bunch of content onto different subs in different languages.
Would that filter out like comments from those individuals too as well, or would it just
they maybe get ranked lower, and then maybe you'd have like a translate button like on Twitter. Like you can still on Twitter you can still see posts in other languages. It's just they're kind of deranked out of your daily experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another great idea, that having an auto translate. I think that'd be cool too. It seems like it's probably more of a technical challenge to get that right, but I don't know. So how this would work? That would actually probably be easier than filters, because I would have to use software that someone else built to do translation like that, and so I would use an API. The problem is cost of that. Like some of the APIs I've seen are like per translation, which the cost might be very high for. So if I can find software that has, this isn't a huge problem yet, but at some point in the future, it becomes more of a problem. I could license software on where I just have a generic license, can use it as much as I want to do translations. That would probably be the way to go. And then maybe at some point the kind of ranking mechanism I think that Now put forward, given they speak multiple languages. But yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, Taipei user. Now we're on to Car's top story.
No, that is my top story.
Yeah.
So this came up, and it has to do with the darknet market. And Squeak Road is a new app on the Umbral store
from the person who developed Squeak Node.
Okay.
The Twitter client.
Have you, either one of you, played with this? Would you admit to it if you have?
I haven't played with it. No, I would not admit to it. I'm not selling expensive powders from my Umbral.
I think it's kind of cool though that you can get that on your Umbral now. I think the more apps the better. But what do you think, Kevin?
I have Squeak Node on Umbral, or at least I did for a while. I don't remember why I wanted to use it, but I set it up, and I remember looking at it a lot, and then I think I might have actually deleted it since then.
Yeah.
But I think it's an interesting idea. I think a lot of the Umbral apps though are still struggling for consistent users. I get the impression, there's maybe 15,000 people running Umbral.
Yeah.
Okay. But how much didn't they raise? Like, was it like 20 or something like that?
They raised $3 million.
Okay.
Yeah. It was yeah. And they've also transitioned to more of like more of a self-hosting market than a Bitcoin exclusive market. I think because the addressable market they assume is larger.
Yeah, the personal servers is kind of like term for this. That like
kind of like what's similar what Start9's doing, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think Start9 it still feels more like a Bitcoin focused product to me, while Umbral feels like it's departing from being Bitcoin focused.
Just because of the UI?
The significant UI change. And then I feel like some of the just the messaging, the general marketing seems to be moving away. They seem to still support it, but it's like they don't expect, it looks like they're moving to a point where they don't expect the majority of the users to run Bitcoin nodes.
I think this is still pretty cool. You can go out and do that if you wanted. Do it.
Oh, do a marketplace?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. Super was suggesting that what he wants is like a directory of like a meta directory, like a directory of all these directories, like somewhere where you could find somewhere where it lists, hey, I sell this on, I sell bike parts, I sell whatever. And that'd be pretty cool. The problem with like decentralized systems like this is discovery. So like you can set up the Squeak Road store, and how do I discover what you're selling? Similarly with torrents, so that's like kind of one of the big issues with torrents, where you usually have some centralized discovery system like the Pirate Bay or whatever to be able to find these things, and then even that system is what ends up getting attacked. But you know, if you're making sure the things that your directory is listing are innocuous, or your meta directory is listing are innocuous, then it shouldn't be a big deal. But I think this is cool. I expect people to begin using this. Actually, it's kind of, I mean, someone could literally launch a Silk Road from their home node.
Say it.
I mean, they could. I mean, they shouldn't, but they could. And this makes it like trivial to do. You don't have to be Ross Ulbricht 10 years ago.
I just like seeing stuff like this adversarial stuff being built on Bitcoin.
It raises a bunch of interesting questions. I like it. So pretty cool. This was one of my top stories, was this Galoy thing they released. I actually don't understand it terribly well, and that's why I'm hoping Kevin might have a little more
post,
insight.
right? Kevin posted it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so I put it up there. Stable sats it's not a stable coin. It's stabilizing the value that you hold in Bitcoin. So you're basically you deposit Bitcoin, and I think what's happening in the background is Galoy is taking a short position while holding onto your Bitcoin. And so the short position and the Bitcoin holdings will cancel each other out. That's the idea, is that no matter what the price does, the price of Bitcoin, as it moves up and down, your short position will become more valuable and your Bitcoin will become less valuable, or your Bitcoin will become more valuable and short position will become less valuable.
I see.
So the two are supposed to cancel each other out. And this is there's two kind of main approaches to stable coins. The first is the asset-backed approach, which is like a Tether. And then you have the contract approach, where people are trying different things to, like one example of a contract could have been some of the algorithmic stable coins. This is different from that, but it's the same idea, where it's not dollars sitting in a bank account. It's not an asset on its own.
Yeah, no, it's not backed. It's backed by somehow this Bitcoin and this contract.
It is fully collateralized, though. That's an important point that that Nicholas wanted to get across when he did. I think he commented on a couple of posts in that thread. He came on, and here's another example. Nicholas did an AMA on Stacker News, and now here he is jumping in, commenting back and forth with everyone. So it's cool to see that happen.
Yeah, I was watching one last night from I think it was on Muzz's podcast. He was on there. I don't know if he was talking about this. I just barely started it, but it was really good. He came in a Plub Lab last year?
Yeah.
You that brought him in there?
Yeah, I think he maybe came to visit me. Yeah. And
that's when he found Nick.
Nick?
Nick T.
I don't know.
Yeah, he works with Galoy now.
Okay. Yeah, I thought this was really cool. Lots of people have colored opinions on it. But basically what happens is it allows you to turn Bitcoin that you might be storing into a stable dollar, fiat stables. And then, but importantly, when you transact, it's over Bitcoin still, is my understanding. And to add a little bit more detail to what Kevin said, they use something called an inverse perpetual swap, which I don't understand, but this is, I think you described it using terms that I think we all understand a little better, like short positions and things. But this is somehow involved.
Yeah, that's the concept. And one thing that I found interesting, I actually did a chat with Nicholas for my podcast that day or the next day, and we discussed the business model here. And so Galoy is a banking service provider. They're like banking as a service. That's kind of one of their slogans.
Right.
And they have one of their customers is Bitcoin Beach, right? So Bitcoin Beach uses Galoy's tech, and Galoy's developed the stable sats, which is now going to be implemented in Bitcoin Beach Wallet. And so Bitcoin Beach Wallet can charge a spread on that. And they can, and every other participant can say, I'm going to integrate stable sats in my app. And in my app, it's going to be 2% or 3% or 1% or 0.5%. Yeah. So there is going to be a business model here, I think, for the users of Galoy's products. And then as a follow-on effect, of course, if the users of the products are earning money themselves, if Bitcoin Beach's business is now profitable and they're really happy with Galoy's service, then they're willing to pay Galoy money as well.
Right. Yeah. They're a really interesting business. Part of this announcement was also that they raised $4 million recently. I think Max led the round with HiveMind. But cool to see them doing that. I think they're a sleeper. I think we'll see some really interesting things come from Galoy. I don't think a lot of people are aware. No? I don't know. Are you speaking?
I'm planning to go. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Are you gonna go, Keyan?
I don't know. I don't know yet. I have to see.
I kind of want to go, man.
Check gorillawatch.com. See what's going on.
I want to go. It's in November, right? November or something?
Yeah, November.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
I would like to go too. I'd like to meet.
I want to hang out with Roman.
Yeah. I know you love Roman.
Yeah.
More cool stories, a few more. This is a good thread. Just kind of wanted to bring more people's attention to it. I didn't get in the top 5, but.
This is my favorite of the week.
Okay. Is
it really? Which one is it?
This is just a list of really cool Lightning apps. And I mean, we have 53 comments of people just, posting interesting apps that, some of them I haven't even heard of. There's a few notable ones like Microlancer, a few people have heard of.
Yeah, Microlancer, yeah.
But like Ellen Cash. 21 Uno, Lightning Gifts. I don't even know.
Similar, Kevin, you know what's interesting? Like I found out about Get Albi was through one of these because I feel like some of these pop up every once in a while. These kind of threads,
yeah,
and that's how I found out Get Albi. And that's because like I should have known about it, but there's just so much stuff going on.
For sure,
I love these. I'm gonna have to jump in there this weekend. And
check them all out. Kevin's answer in here was Get Mash.
Get Mash.
They're basically building. Kevin should describe what they do. I think he understands them better.
So I think of them as like building Shopify for creators.
Click on it, Keyan. What does that look like?
So
you haven't heard of this yet?
No.
It's been. I mean, they've done releases on Stacker News.
Wow. Earn more for what you build, create, and develop. Gain more customers because there's no commitment or large upfront fee.
So basically, this lets you monetize any aspect of any site. There's all sorts of sites that are just stuck with an ad model because that's the only thing that's existed. And there's a lot of places where it doesn't really make sense to do that, but you kind of have to do it because if you don't monetize with ads, you're not going to get someone to lock into like a monthly subscription or something,
right?
$10 a month or whatever. There were a bunch of sites that popped up. I remember one specifically, everyone was watching when COVID first started. There was this like COVID dashboard that showed all the different like case numbers and that in different places.
Right.
And I think they were among the top 50 most popular sites in the world for a few months.
Yeah.
When everyone was going wild about it. And they could only monetize with ads. You see a lot of the meme sites, the meme generators.
Yeah.
They're really popular globally. They can only monetize with ads.
Right. Or Image Flip has like a $3 per month subscription, which I always get around by screenshotting the image.
Yeah. And I mean, like, how much are they losing on the $3 transaction?
This is really clean. This is a really good job.
Yeah, no, these guys are really smart. I've talked to Jared before. He really gets it. I had some, like, when they first launched, I was like, I'm not sure I want to use your wallet. Like, I don't have a good reason to sign into your wallet yet. Like, that was my main criticism of them in general, is that I would have to. But once you get if you can get people, my main point was, like, if you can get me to start using that wallet, like, create an experience that I want to do so badly, I'm willing to start using the GetMash wallet, or the Mash wallet. I will probably use it everywhere. It's just that one experience. Huh?
Where are they from?
Canada, I believe.
Yeah, they're in Toronto.
Wow.
Jared's in Toronto, yeah.
Oh, cool.
I think I'm actually going to try it out, hopefully in the next week or so on my site.
Nice.
I've been putting together transcripts of my episodes, podcast episodes, and I've actually been doing it with Stackwork. So Stackwork has been doing these transcripts. They take the audio file, they create a transcript. It's like, an hour and a half episode or something.
Yeah.
And they have hundreds of workers that are contributing little tiny additions in transcribing it, because you run through an AI first, but the AI messes up a bunch of words.
Right.
So these workers all over the world are doing like 4-second tasks of, like, identify this word, this one word, and someone else identifies another word, and they compile all that together, and they feed back to me in the same day a polished transcript that is way better than I could get from an AI in the same day. It's like $8 or $10. And so what I'm doing is I'm going to put those transcripts on my site and then have Mash as a kind of like a paywall there.
Yeah.
And so if you want to read the transcript in 15 minutes instead of listening to the full hour and a half episode that I did, you'll be able to do that on Mash.
Another thing too cool about that, Kevin, is, like, some of the best, like, ideas or topics that are discussed during a podcast, like, would make interesting articles. And that would be cool too, because you can grab snippets and then you can just kind of bounce off from there, like, in that moment that you had this, like, fleeting whatever.
Yeah, for that use case, then it would definitely make sense to be able to just copy and paste so you don't have to self-transcribe something from a podcast.
That's another thing that Stackwork's working on is, they've had some jobs on the Stacker News job board for transcribing podcasts and, like, identifying chapters and things like that. They're trying to rebuild Google and build it based on, because their thesis is, like, the most interesting Bitcoin knowledge starts with podcasts. It starts with discussions people have like this, and only after that it makes its way to web pages in this, like, polished blog post form. So Google's the last to index it. And they're building basically a tool where, I had Paul on my show a while ago, and he said, if you search, like, trampoline routing on Google, you're going to get a bunch of junk. But if you can pull all the little clips from all the podcasts about trampoline routing, you probably get a pretty good idea of what it is.
What is the opposite of vertical integration? That's what that would be, right? Because, like, if Google is, like, let's say this layer where you just described, it's a search engine, this would be underneath that, right? And then they could not thwart Google, but they could vertically integrate upwards, right? Or is that the complete? Or am I just? I
don't think you need vertical or horizontal integration, but I think it's getting a jump on Google for content. Google's lag behind the information that they're getting is it takes someone to transcribe it into an article or put it into an article, these ideas in an article, but when they're discussed over audio by voice far sooner than when they're in text format. And so that sounds like what they're doing.
They're taking a shot at Google in another way too with the phones, right? Like they're trying to bring phones to their Stackwork workers all over the world, and they'll basically give someone a phone who maybe can't afford a phone, but they want the phone. And so the worker takes the phone and can only do Stackwork tasks for the first couple months. After a couple months of working and earning, they've now paid off the phone.
Yeah,
the phone can now.
This was the
open up.
story that really just blew my mind when I heard it the first time.
Wow.
And so now all of a sudden, they're taking a number of approaches here at the search giants of the world, the hardware giants of the world. They got some ambition.
Who are these guys? They're from Canada too, or no?
No, Stackworks. I think
Salt Lake City.
They're Utah based.
Yeah.
SLC punks. I love it.
Yeah, Paul is great. He's always in the Stacker News Sphinx chat talking with me. The other top story that I had another one. There were a lot of great stories this week, and I wanted to make sure to give them all their due. But AJ Moto did a poor man's block clock. I think it ends up totaling like $14. You just need to write a little bit of code. I think he provides all the code in the post. He also has a GitHub repo for it. Oh no, he said
that's
not
so
more
cool.
than $30. I mean, obviously not as beautiful as the block clock, but you can refine that. You can fork the code and make it prettier.
That's so cool.
Yeah, but a really fun post.
Do you have a list of stuff that we need?
You just need this M5 Stick C IoT device, and then the code. And then you need to connect to the CoinMarket API.
And then we just need a 3D printer, or no?
Nope. Well, maybe for the case.
Yeah, just get Eden 3D printer Max to do it.
You could, or you could print it.
Cool.
Jimmy Song replies, I don't know why Bitcoin nodes don't display this as default. I agree. I think actually Umbrel's, the hardware they sell has like a block clock like display on it. But
What a cool little weekend project.
how far are we in? Should we?
Yeah, we're already over an hour. But,
are we really? Okay, we should
yeah.
just cut. We'll cut out the stats that we normally do. If we do,
we got Boost. We got Boost.
We can go over Boost.
Yeah, we got Boost. We got Blockchain Boog, who's like our only big fan. I think I know who Blockchain Boog is.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do. Now Super will get the $11 payment. Then Car's Bitcoin investment rips up, and he has lots of money now. Super sees this and sells the bond back to Car. Oh, wait. Okay. So this is from last week's episode. We were talking about, do you have any beef with IKEA? They're talking about bonds. So I read the part. He basically said, Blockchain Boog, quick explanation of bonds. Bonds are a promise to pay back money borrowed. For example, Car is in El Salvador and he wants to construct a new school. Since he spent all his money on food, he issues a bond asking for $100 to be paid back in 10 years at $11 per year to construct the school. Keyan buys that bond for $100 and will receive the $11 until he's paid back. Keyan sees Car lose his job and thinks he's not going to be paid back and sells the bond to Super for $50. Now Super will get that $11 payment. Then Car's Bitcoin investment rips up and he has lots of money now. Super sees this and sells the bond back to Car at $100.
This is all
Car just bought back
ridiculous.
its sovereign debt because he just came into money. Thank you, Blockchain Boog, for explaining bonds.
Yeah,
that's all we got.
And if you are on Fountain, you can view all those boosts, right? And so if you're curious what that actually was, you can read it. But thank you so much for being here, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
Thanks for having
me. It was
me.
awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like we learned something today.
Yeah. Usually we're just like shit posting verbally is really what we're doing.
There's a lot of cool stuff you told us about, like Stackworks,
Mash,
Galoy.
This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Kevin Rooke knows a lot of things.
That's right. That's what we learned.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you next time, Stackers.
Zap.